The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction, with walls that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Hundreds of alien beings floated in their special chambers, while holographic displays showed worlds and ships from across the galaxy. The air hummed with the sound of translation machines working to turn thousands of different languages into words that everyone could understand. Ambassador Kethvar stood at the center of it all with his 4 arms moving as he spoke. His skin was blue and covered in scales that caught the light from the floating screens around him. He had been talking for over an hour about the new species they had found in a small system near the edge of the galaxy. The humans lived on the 3rd planet from their star, and they had been watching them for 3 years now. These creatures are still very basic, Kethvar said as his voice carried to every corner of the massive hall. They fight each other with metal bullets that move slower than our slowest ships. Their fastest rockets would need thousands of years just to reach the nearest star to their homeworld. Captain Deho stood perfectly still in the observation area high above the main floor. His black hair was cut short in the military style, and his dark brown eyes watched everything happening below. The small device behind his ear translated every word the alien spoke into Korean. Next to him stood Dr. So-Young with her tablet computer recording everything they saw and heard. Her long black hair was pulled back and her face showed no emotion, even though both humans felt angry at what they were hearing. The humans have learned to split atoms, and they have built some basic stations in space around their world, another alien said from across the hall. This one looked like a giant insect with wings that sparkled in the light. Maybe we should try to talk to them and see what they are like. A sound like laughter filled the hall, but it came from throats and mouths that were nothing like human ones. Some aliens made clicking sounds while others produced musical tones that rose and fell like singing. The meaning was clear even without translation. They thought the idea was very funny. Talk to them. Kethvar's forearms spread wide as if he could not believe what he had heard. They still fight wars against their own kind on their home planet. Their weapons could not even scratch the paint on our smallest scout ships. They are no danger to anyone, and they have nothing we need or want. Captain Deho's hands formed fists at his sides, but he did not move or speak. Dr. So-Young placed her small hand on his arm to remind him that they were only there to watch and learn. Their orders from Earth were very clear. Do not let the aliens know they were there, and do not do anything that might start a fight. The council took a vote, and every single alien agreed that humans should be put on the list of species that were too basic to contact. They would keep watching Earth from far away, but they would not make themselves known until humans learned to travel faster than light or build energy weapons. The aliens thought this would take at least 3,000 Earth years. When the meeting ended, Captain Deho and Dr. So-Young walked back to their ship. It was hidden from alien sensors by technology that made it invisible to their machines. The ship was small and had been built for watching and listening rather than fighting. Inside the main room, Captain Deho activated the quantum radio that could send messages instantly across any distance. Earth Control, this is Observer 1, he spoke into the microphone. We have a full report on today's council meeting. The reply came back in just seconds, even though Earth was many light years away. Observer 1, this is Admiral Hyun-woo at Lunar Command. Send your report. Dr. So-Young read from her tablet as the message was transmitted back to Earth. The Galactic Council has classified humanity as pre-contact primitives. They consider our technology too basic for any form of communication or interaction. Estimated time before they change this classification is 3,000 years based on expected rate of human technological development. There was silence on the radio for several long minutes. Then Admiral Hyun-woo's voice came back sounding tired but also somehow pleased. So that is how they see us. Basic, harmless, not worth their time or attention. Captain Deho looked out the window of their hidden ship at the massive space station where the council met. Hundreds of alien ships came and went, bringing representatives from across the galaxy. Their technology was amazing and beautiful, but there was something about the way they acted that made him think they had become too comfortable with always being the strongest and smartest beings in space. Admiral, Dr. So-Young said into the radio, there is something else. During the meeting, we heard them talking about their weapons. They use energy beams that turn matter into plasma, and they have shields that can stop anything moving below certain speeds. Their ships can travel between stars in days or weeks. Understood, came the reply from Earth. Your observations match what our scientists have been thinking. They have advanced in some ways, but they might have weaknesses they do not know about. Captain Deho activated his part of the transmission. Sir, there is one more thing. They are not just ignoring us because we are weak. They are ignoring us because they cannot imagine that a species like us could ever be a threat to them. They think there is only one way to become powerful in space, and they believe they have perfected it. The radio crackled for a moment before Admiral Hyunwoo responded. That might be exactly the advantage we need. Continue your observations and report anything new. Hyunwoo out. The transmission ended, and the two humans sat quietly in their hidden ship. Below them on the massive station, thousands of aliens went about their business completely unaware that representatives of the species they had just dismissed were watching and learning everything they could. Dr. So Young saved all her recordings and began writing her detailed report. Do you think they made a mistake today? She asked Captain Deho. The captain looked out at the alien ships with their sleek designs and glowing engines. I think they made the biggest mistake any powerful group can make. They decided we were not worth their attention without really trying to understand what we might be capable of. Far away on Earth's moon, Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the deep underground chambers of Lunar Defense Command. Around him, hundreds of engineers and scientists worked on Project Thunderbolt. The massive construction bays carved into the moon's rock were filled with the largest machines humanity had ever built. Magnetic field generators the size of buildings hummed with power, while metal stronger than anything found in nature was shaped into forms that would have amazed the aliens who thought humans were still primitive. How much longer? The Admiral asked Engineer Jiwoo as she checked readings on her computer. 6 months, sir, she replied without looking up from her work. Maybe less if the new power systems work as well as we hope. Admiral Hyunwoo smiled as he watched his people work. The aliens thought humans were basic because they used simple technology like chemical rockets and metal bullets. They had no idea that sometimes the most basic ideas could be made into the most powerful weapons if you understood the science well enough and had the will to build something that had never existed before. The work continued in the hidden chambers, beneath the moon's surface, while far away, the Galactic Council went about their business completely unaware that the species they had dismissed was preparing to change everything. 6 months passed after the council meeting, and strange things began happening across human space. Energy readings unlike anything in the galactic databases appeared near Earth's moon, and the alien monitoring stations could not figure out what they were seeing. The signatures were not fusion power like human reactors normally used, and they were definitely not antimatter, or the exotic matter that powered the most advanced alien ships. Whatever the humans were doing was completely new. Engineer Jiwoo stood on the observation platform deep inside Luna Station, wiping sweat from her forehead, as she watched the final work being done on the most ambitious project humanity had ever attempted. The magnetic field generators that surrounded the construction bay were so powerful, they created their own aurora that painted the metal walls in dancing colors of green and blue. The fields were so strong that any metal object brought too close would be ripped apart by forces that could crush mountains. Above them, in the center of the bay, hung the Thunderbolt. It stretched for 5 kilometers from end to end and was made from titanium alloy stronger than diamond. The barrel was perfectly straight and smooth on the inside, with magnetic coils wrapped around it every few meters. At the base sat the most powerful electrical system ever built by human hands, capable of storing and releasing energy equal to a small star. Final systems check is complete, Technician Min Ho called out from his control station. Magnetic field coherence is holding steady at 99.7%. The projectile is loaded and locked in position. Admiral Hyunwoo floated in the transparent bubble that served as the main observation area, watching 15 years of secret work finally come together. The project had used resources from 12 different nations and had required the brightest minds on Earth to solve problems that most scientists said were impossible with current human technology. They had proven the scientists wrong. The secret was not in using alien technology or exotic materials that humanity did not understand. Instead, they had taken the most basic principle of warfare and applied human engineering to make it work on a scale that no one had ever imagined. While other species in the galaxy had developed elegant energy weapons that turned matter into superheated plasma, humans had built something much more direct and brutal. Admiral, Dr. Sujin approached with her tablet showing the final calculations. We have run the computer simulations 12,000 times using every variable we can think of. The projectile will reach 97% of light speed when it leaves the barrel. At that velocity, the kinetic energy release will be equivalent to a major stellar flare. Admiral Hyunwoo nodded slowly. I know, Doctor. We have all seen the numbers. The question is not whether our weapon will work as designed. The question is whether anyone in the galaxy will be ready for what happens when we use it. Through the thick, transparent aluminum of the observation window, Earth hung in space like a blue and white marble against the black of space. Somewhere beyond their solar system, the Galactic Council continued with their daily business, confident that their technology made them the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They had no idea that the primitives they had dismissed were about to demonstrate a completely new kind of warfare. The targeting computer had already locked onto the chosen test site. It was a dead moon, orbiting a star called Proxima Centauri, that had no life and no strategic importance to any alien species. The moon was made of rock and metal with no atmosphere and no value, except as a target that would show the galaxy what humanity could accomplish when they decided to build a weapon. Engineer. Jiwoo checked her readings one more time and nodded to the Admiral. All systems are functioning perfectly, sir. The magnetic field generators are charged to full capacity. The projectile is a tungsten carbide rod weighing exactly 2 tons. It measures 2 meters long and 20 centimeters in diameter. The surface has been polished to perfection, and the mass is distributed exactly as the computers calculated. What makes this work? Admiral Hyunwoo asked, even though he knew the answer. He wanted his people to understand what they had built and why it was so different from anything else in the galaxy. Dr. Sujin activated her holographic display, showing the physics behind their weapon. Other species use energy weapons because they are efficient and can be controlled precisely. They heat matter until it becomes plasma, then direct it at targets using magnetic fields. It works well, but the energy requirements increase exponentially as you try to make the weapons more powerful. The display changed to show the Thunderbolt's design. We took a different approach. Instead of trying to turn matter into energy, we decided to give matter so much kinetic energy that the effect would be even more devastating. The magnetic fields do not heat the projectile at all. Instead, they accelerate it using the same principles that make electric motors work, but on a scale that has never been attempted before. Technician Minho looked up from his station. The beauty of the design is its simplicity. We are literally throwing a rock at our target. The only difference is that we are throwing it so fast that when it hits the target, the laws of physics do most of the work for us. Admiral Hyunwoo smiled grimly. Kinetic energy increases with the square of velocity. Double the speed and you get 4 times the energy. Get something moving at 97% of light speed and the energy release becomes comparable to the fusion reactions that power stars. Captain Woo Jin entered the observation area and saluted the Admiral. Sir, all stations report ready. The alien monitoring posts have not detected our activities thanks to the electromagnetic shielding around the construction bay. As far as they know, we are still using the same basic technology we have always used. Perfect, the Admiral replied. They expect us to follow their path of development. Energy weapons, exotic matter drives faster than light travel. They cannot imagine that we might solve the same problems using completely different methods. The countdown began, with all departments reporting their status. The power systems that fed the magnetic coils drew electricity from fusion reactors, buried deep in the moon's core. The targeting computers calculated the exact trajectory needed to hit a target over 4 light-years away, accounting for the movement of planets and stars. The projectile itself had been manufactured to tolerances, measured in atoms with every molecule perfectly aligned. 10 seconds to firing, announced the computer voice that filled every chamber in Luna Station. Admiral Hyunwoo opened the communication channel to Earth and the hidden human colonies scattered throughout the solar system. All stations, this is Admiral Hyunwoo. Today we announce to the galaxy that humanity refuses to be ignored. Today we show them that there is more than one way to reach for the stars. The magnetic field generators began their sequence drawing power equal to the output of a medium-sized star for exactly 0.003 of a second. The tungsten carbide projectile started from rest and reached 97% of light speed before it cleared the end of the barrel. The acceleration forces were so intense they should have crushed the projectile into powder, but the careful engineering held, and the rod remained intact as it began its journey across space. There was no sound in the vacuum of space, but every person in Luna Station felt the moment of firing in their bones as the entire moon shuddered from the recoil. The thunderbolt had worked exactly as designed, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, a 2-ton piece of metal was racing toward its target at a speed that made light seem slow. Engineer Ji Woo checked her instruments and smiled. Perfect trajectory, Admiral. Impact with target in 4.3 hours. Admiral Hyunwoo looked out at the stars, knowing that in a few hours every advanced civilization in the galaxy would suddenly realize they had made a terrible mistake about the species they called primitive. The tungsten carbide projectile raced through space at a speed that made mockery of everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. At 97% of light speed, it was no longer just a piece of metal, but had become something else entirely. The laws of physics that governed normal matter were stretched to their limits as 2 tons of perfectly engineered tungsten carbide carried kinetic energy equal to the explosion of a star. Across the galaxy, every civilization with sensors capable of detecting fast-moving objects suddenly registered readings that made no sense. The mass signature was solid and real, but nothing that size should be able to move at such incredible speed. Their computers ran diagnostic checks over and over, trying to find the error in their instruments, because what they were seeing was impossible, according to everything they knew about technology and physics. In the Altrian monitoring station that orbited Proxima Centauri, sensor operator Yithnun stared at her display screens with growing confusion. Her scaled blue skin reflected the light from the warning indicators that had started flashing when the object first appeared on their instruments. She had been monitoring this system for over 10 years and had never seen anything like the readings her machines were showing her. Commander Gethtar, she called to her superior, who was reviewing routine reports from other systems. I am detecting an unknown object on a direct path toward the 7th moon of Proxima b. The velocity reading shows it is traveling at 0.97 times the speed of light, but that cannot be correct. Commander Gethtar's 4 mandibles clicked, together in the Altrian expression of annoyance. He had been hoping for a quiet shift with nothing more exciting than routine maintenance reports and stellar weather updates. Operator Yithnan, you know that nothing travels at such speeds except pure energy weapons fired by the largest stellar defense platforms. Check your sensor calibration again. Sir, I have run complete diagnostics on all systems 3 times. Every instrument confirms the same readings. The object has solid mass of approximately 2 tons. Its velocity is consistent at 97% of light speed. Current trajectory will result in impact with Moon 7 in exactly 17 minutes. The Midar commander moved to look over her shoulder at the displays. The numbers were impossible, but they were also consistent across every type of sensor they had. Mass detectors showed a solid object. Velocity trackers confirmed it was moving at relativistic speeds. Trajectory computers predicted impact with mathematical precision. Send an alert to Fleet Command, Gethtar ordered. Mark it as Priority 1. Something is happening here that we do not understand. The alert traveled through Altrian space at faster than light speed, reaching their military headquarters in minutes. From there, it spread to other species as the Altrian commanders shared the data with their allies. The Vexian Deep Space Observatory picked up the signal at 12 minutes before impact. The Corvathian early warning system tagged the object at 8 minutes out. By the time the projectile was 5 minutes from its target, every major civilization in the galaxy was watching. Scientists and military officers across hundreds of worlds stared at their screens, trying to understand what they were seeing. The object was too small to be a ship and too large to be a natural phenomenon. Its speed ruled out any known form of propulsion, and its trajectory was too precise to be an accident. Whatever it was had been aimed at the Proxima system with deliberate intent. Could it be a weapon, asked Fleet Admiral Nextar aboard the Altrian flagship Dominion's voice. He was reviewing the data that had been transmitted from the monitoring station, while his tactical officers tried to identify what species might have the technology to create such a thing. "Unknown, sir," replied his science officer. "No known civilization possesses kinetic weapons capable of achieving relativistic velocities. The energy requirements would be astronomical, and the engineering challenges appear to be unsolvable with current technology." "Then what are we looking at?" "We do not know, sir. The object originated from the direction of the Sol system, but that is impossible. Intelligence reports confirm that the humans in that system are still using chemical propulsion and primitive kinetic weapons. Their most advanced ships would require millennia to reach even their nearest stellar neighbor." Admiral Nextar studied the trajectory data on his personal display. The path of the object could be traced back through space in a perfectly straight line that led directly to the system where the primitive humans lived. But the idea that those backward creatures could have created something like this was beyond belief. When the 2-ton tungsten carbide projectile struck the barren moon of Proxima B7, the laws of physics took over with devastating precision. At 97% of light speed, the kinetic energy release was equivalent to several stellar flares happening in the same instant. The moon did not explode in any normal sense of the word. Instead, it simply ceased to exist as organized matter. The impact created temperatures hotter than the core of most stars. The rock and metal that had formed the moon for billions of years was instantly converted to superheated plasma that expanded outward in a perfect sphere of destruction. The gravity waves from the impact rippled through local space-time strong, enough to be detected by instruments across multiple star systems. For exactly 4.7 seconds after the impact, every communication channel in the galaxy fell completely silent. Thousands of species who had been monitoring the approach of the mysterious object found themselves staring at displays that showed empty space where a moon had existed moments before. The silence stretched across civilizations that had never agreed on anything as every intelligence in the galaxy tried to process what they had just witnessed. Then everyone started talking at once. Emergency broadcasts flooded the communication networks as military commanders and scientists tried to understand the implications of what they had seen. The Altrian High Command declared a fleet-wide alert. The Vexian Assembly called an emergency session. The Corvathian War Council activated their most advanced defense protocols. "Impossible," transmitted the Nexian Fleet Admiral from his crystal ship. "No kinetic weapon can achieve those velocities without exotic matter manipulation. The engineering requirements alone would exceed the capabilities of any known civilization." "Are you suggesting this was a natural phenomenon?" replied the Corvathian Defense Minister. "A 2-ton object that somehow accelerated to near light speed on its own and coincidentally struck a moon in a system under active observation?" The argument that followed involved representatives from 47 different species, all trying to explain what they had witnessed using the framework of their existing knowledge. Energy weapons they understood. Exotic matter drives made sense to their scientists. But a simple projectile moving at relativistic speeds through nothing but kinetic energy was outside their experience. Ambassador Kethvar activated his personal communication system from the Altrian diplomatic vessel. The trajectory analysis is conclusive. The object originated from the Sol system, from the primitive human homeworld. A wave of denial swept through the communication networks. The idea that the backward humans could have accomplished something beyond the capabilities of advanced galactic civilizations was impossible to accept. Their technology was primitive. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were toys compared to the energy arrays used by modern military forces. The Sol primitives, stated Counselor Vexhai with absolute authority, possess no technology capable of such feats. They still use chemical rockets and metal projectiles. Their most powerful weapons are fusion devices that would barely damage our atmospheric shields. But even as the debate raged, the evidence could not be disputed. Every sensor reading pointed to the same conclusion. The impossible projectile had come from human space. The species that had been dismissed as too primitive for contact had somehow created a weapon that violated every assumption about warfare and physics that the galaxy held sacred. In the hidden observation post, Captain Daeho and Dr. So Young watched the alien communications with barely controlled satisfaction. They transmitted constant updates back to Earth as the galaxy struggled to understand what had happened. They cannot accept it. Dr. So Young whispered in Korean, knowing the alien translation. Systems would not recognize the ancient Earth language. They are so convinced of their own superiority that they will look for any explanation except the obvious one. Captain Daeho smiled as he monitored the flood of messages between alien commanders. Admiral Hyun-woo was right. They have become so comfortable being the most advanced species that they cannot imagine someone finding a different path to the same destination. The quantum communicator crackled with an incoming message from Earth. Admiral Hyun-woo's voice was calm and satisfied as he spoke to his observers in alien space. Report status. How are our new friends handling the demonstration? Sir, Captain Daeho replied, they are completely confused. Every species is denying that humans could have built such a weapon. They are looking for alternative explanations that fit their existing knowledge rather than accepting that we might have surprised them. Perfect. Continue monitoring and report any significant developments. The real test comes next. Dr. So Young looked up from her instruments. Admiral, what do you mean the real test comes next? The emergency council session was called within 6 hours of the Proxima impact, and the Great Hall filled with holographic representatives from 47 different species. The normal calm and order of galactic politics had been replaced by confusion and fear, as every civilization tried to understand what the destruction of the moon meant for their own security. Translation matrices worked overtime as dozens of different languages created a chaos of overlapping conversations. The readings are impossible, insisted Fleet Admiral Yextan of the Nexian Empire. His crystalline form flickered with agitated energy that made the light in his section of the hall dance in patterns that hurt to look at. No kinetic weapon can achieve those velocities without exotic matter enhancement. The energy requirements alone would drain the power output of an entire star system. Are you suggesting this was some kind of natural event? Interrupted Science Minister Koltar of the Korvathian Republic. His insect-like features twitched with agitation as his 4 arms gestured at the holographic display showing the impact. Sight. A 2-ton object that somehow achieved near-light speed on its own and happened to strike a moon in a system under active surveillance by 3 different species. Ambassador Kethavar activated his personal projection from the bridge of the Altrian flagship Dominion's voice. His scaled blue skin showed the stress patterns that indicated high emotion as he addressed the assembly. Fellow council members, I have reviewed all available data multiple times. The trajectory analysis is conclusive and undeniable. The projectile originated from the Sol system, from the planet inhabited by the species we classified as primitives. The sound that filled the Great Hall was unlike anything heard in the thousands of years since the Council had been formed. 47 different species expressed disbelief using their own biological systems, creating a symphony of denial that the translation matrices could not begin to process. Clicking mandibles mixed with harmonic tones while crystalline beings flickered in patterns that represented impossible thoughts. The Sol primitives, declared Counselor Vexahai with the absolute authority of someone who had never been wrong about anything important, possess no technology capable of achieving such results. Our most recent intelligence reports confirm they are still using chemical propulsion systems and primitive kinetic slug throwers. Their most powerful weapons are fusion warheads that would be considered toys compared to our standard plasma arrays. Defense Minister Yithkar of the Saurian Confederacy rose from his floating platform to address the assembly. His reptilian features showed the concern that was spreading through every military organization in the galaxy. Council members, we cannot simply dismiss this event because it does not fit our understanding of primitive technology. A moon has been completely destroyed by kinetic impact. The energy release was detected across multiple star systems. Whatever happened, it was real and it was deliberate. But the implications are impossible to accept, replied Ambassador Gethvar from the Altrian delegation. If the humans possess weapons capable of relativistic kinetic strikes, then every assumption we have made about their technological development is incorrect. Our classification systems would be meaningless, and our defense strategies would need complete revision. In the observation area that officially did not exist, Captain Daeho and Dr. So-young watched the proceedings with growing satisfaction. The quantum communicator hummed softly as they transmitted real-time updates to Earth, while the galaxy's most powerful civilizations struggled to understand what they had witnessed. They are trapped by their own superiority, Dr. So-young whispered in Korean while her fingers worked across her tablet recording every detail of the alien debate. They have become so convinced that their way of developing technology is the only possible path that they cannot imagine someone taking a different approach to the same problems. Captain Daeho monitored the communication traffic between the various alien fleets as military commanders tried to decide how to respond to the impossible demonstration. Admiral Hyun-woo predicted this exact reaction. They are going to do something that will give us the opportunity we need. The debate continued for hours as representatives from every major civilization offered theories that became increasingly desperate. Some suggested the object had been fired by a previously unknown species, using the Sol system as a launching point. Others proposed that humans had somehow acquired advanced technology from an extinct civilization. A few even suggested that the entire event had been staged using advanced holographic projection. "We are overthinking this situation," announced Fleet Admiral Nextar as his image appeared in the center of the Great Hall. "There is only one way to determine the truth about what happened. We must send an investigation fleet to the Sol system and demand answers from the primitives who live there." "And if they refuse to cooperate?" asked Counselor Yexhai. "Then we will take the answers we need by force," Nextar replied with the confidence of someone who had never encountered meaningful resistance. "Their orbital platforms are minimal and their defensive capabilities are non-existent. A single heavy cruiser could disable their entire space-based infrastructure." The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed that an investigation fleet should be dispatched to Sol with orders to discover the truth about human capabilities and confiscate any advanced technology they might possess. The Altrian fleet was chosen for the mission since their ships were already in the region, and their military was considered among the most capable in the galaxy. Captain Daeho activated his communicator the moment the vote was completed. "Earth, control, this is Observer 1 with priority intelligence. The Galactic Council has authorized an investigation fleet to Sol. Estimated composition is 12 heavy cruisers and 1 flagship. Altrian design and crew. Estimated arrival time is 4 days. The response from Admiral Hyun-woo came back within seconds. "Observer 1, this is confirmed. Continue monitoring and report any changes to their mission parameters. Hyun-woo out." Dr. So-young looked up from her tablet where she had been calculating the specifications of the incoming Altrian fleet. "They are sending enough firepower to destroy every human installation in the solar system. Do you think we are ready for them?" "Admiral Hyun-woo seems to think so," Captain Daeho replied as he watched the alien representatives beginning to disperse from the emergency session. "Project Lightning should be operational by the time they arrive." Back on Earth, Admiral Hyun-woo stood in the command center of Lunar Defense Command, surrounded by displays showing the status of humanity's secret weapons program. The second railgun was ahead of schedule, and the third was beginning final assembly. Around him, hundreds of engineers and technicians worked with the focused intensity of people who knew that the survival of their species might depend on their efforts. "So they want to visit," the Admiral said to Engineer Ji-woo as she reported on the status of the Lightning system. "How long until we can demonstrate our hospitality?" "The Lightning will be ready to fire in 36 hours, sir," she replied while checking the readings on her control panel. "The magnetic field generators have been charged and tested. The targeting computer has been programmed with the specifications of Altrian heavy cruisers. All systems are functioning within acceptable parameters." "Perfect." Admiral Hyun-woo activated the global communication system that connected every major military installation on Earth and throughout the human colonies. "All units, this is Admiral Hyun-woo. Our guests have decided to pay us a visit to learn about our recent technological demonstration. I want every defensive system online and ready. This is not a drill. The future of humanity depends on the next few days." In installations hidden beneath the surface of Mars and in the asteroid belt, Human military units received their orders and began final preparations. The species that had been dismissed as primitives was about to receive visitors who expected to find helpless savages armed with crude chemical weapons. Instead, they would discover that humans had learned something the galaxy had forgotten. Sometimes the most sophisticated solution was to take the simplest approach and engineer it to absolute perfection. The Altrian investigation fleet departed, their forward base with all the confidence of a civilization that had never encountered serious resistance. 12 heavy cruisers and the massive flagship Dominion's Voice set course for the Sol system, expecting to find answers and primitive weapons that posed no threat to their advanced shields and armor. They had no idea they were flying into the most carefully prepared trap in the history of warfare. The Altrian investigation fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, with all the arrogance of a species that had ruled space for 10,000 years. The flagship Dominion's Voice led the formation with its 3-kilometer hull, bristling with plasma weapon arrays and shield generators powerful enough to deflect the energy output of a small star. 11 heavy cruisers followed in perfect formation, their crews confident that they were about to solve the mystery of the impossible weapon by interrogating primitives who still fought with metal bullets. Fleet Admiral Nextar stood on the bridge of his flagship studying the displays that showed the human solar system spread out before them. The third planet looked peaceful and blue, with white clouds swirling over continents where billions of primitive beings lived their simple lives. A few basic space stations orbited the world along with what appeared to be construction platforms around the small moon, but nothing that suggested advanced military capability. Open communication channels on all frequencies. Admiral Nextar ordered his communications officer. Translate our message into whatever primitive languages these creatures use. The transmission that followed was broadcast with the full authority of the Galactic Council and the Altrian Empire. Attention Sol System inhabitants. This is Fleet Admiral Nextar of the Altrian Imperial Navy, acting under the authority of the Galactic Council. You will submit to immediate inspection and surrender any weapons capable of achieving relativistic velocities. Any attempt to resist this lawful investigation will be met with appropriate military force. The response came not from the planetary, governments, or orbital platforms, but from a simple transmission originating near the moon, where the humans had built their largest space installations. The voice that spoke was calm and carried the quiet confidence of someone who was not impressed by threats from superior forces. This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the United Earth Defense Force. You are not authorized to enter our system, and you are not welcome here. You have exactly 60 seconds to begin your departure, or we will consider your presence an act of war. The bridge of the Dominion's Voice erupted in sounds that would have been recognizable as laughter to any human observer. The crew found it amusing that creatures who still used chemical rockets would dare to threaten a fleet capable of sterilizing their entire world in minutes. Several officers made comments about primitive ignorance and the need to teach these backward species about the realities of galactic politics. Primitive fool, Admiral Nextar muttered while his tactical staff prepared firing solutions for the human orbital installations. Activate all weapon systems. We will disable their space platforms and take whatever technology they have been hiding from us. Weapons Officer Kylehan worked at his station bringing online the plasma arrays that could turn solid matter into superheated gas in seconds. Sir, I am detecting massive energy buildup near their lunar installations. The readings indicate some form of magnetic field generation, but the power levels are far beyond anything their technology should be capable of producing. Irrelevant. Admiral Nextar waved one of his forearms dismissively while he studied the tactical display showing his fleet in perfect attack formation. Whatever primitive device they are attempting to activate our shields can easily absorb any energy they might direct at us. Prepare to fire on my command. The lightning spoke before the Altrian admiral could give his order. The second railgun built in the hidden chambers beneath Luna Station was even more powerful than the thunderbolt that had destroyed the moon at Proxima Centauri. The tungsten carbide projectile massed 3 tons instead of 2, and the improved magnetic acceleration system drove it to 98.2% of light speed in the 0.003 of a second it took to travel the length of the barrel. The distance between Luna Station and the Altrian flagship was approximately 11 light minutes, which meant the projectile completed its journey in just over 11 minutes of real time. During those 11 minutes, the crew of the Dominion's Voice continued their preparations to destroy the human orbital platforms, completely unaware that their own destruction was racing toward them at a significant fraction of the speed of light. Fleet. Admiral Nextar was reviewing target priorities when his science officer suddenly looked up from his instruments with an expression of confusion. "Sir, I am detecting an incoming object traveling at relativistic speed. Point of origin appears to be the human lunar installations. Estimated time to impact is 37 seconds. Impact with what?" the Admiral asked while turning his attention to the tactical display. "With us, sir." The shields of the Dominion's Voice had been designed by the finest engineers in the Altrian Empire, using principles refined over millennia of warfare against energy weapons and conventional kinetic projectiles. They could deflect plasma beams that carried the power of stellar flares and absorbed the impact of missiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. They were considered impenetrable by any known weapon system in the galaxy. They had never been tested against 3 tons of tungsten carbide traveling at 98.2% of the speed of light. The projectile passed through the flagship's deflector shields as if they were made of tissue paper. The exotic energy fields that should have turned the incoming object into harmless plasma had no effect on matter moving at such incredible velocity. The armored hull that could withstand direct hits from the most powerful energy weapons in existence offered no more resistance than empty space. The Dominion's Voice did not explode in any conventional sense. Instead, it simply ceased to exist as an organized structure. The relativistic impact released energy equivalent to several stellar detonations, happening simultaneously in the same location. The 3-kilometer ship was instantly converted to superheated plasma that expanded outward in a perfect sphere of destruction, visible from every planet in the solar system. The remaining 11 heavy cruisers found themselves suddenly alone, in space where moments before their mighty flagship had dominated the local area. Their sensors registered debris patterns that indicated complete structural failure, but the pieces were so small and moving so fast that detailed analysis was impossible. The pride of the Altrian fleet had been reduced to elementary particles in less time than it took for light to travel from one end of the ship to the other. Admiral Nextar's final transmission lasted exactly 2.7 seconds and consisted of a single word in the ancient Altrian language that meant something similar to inconceivable or impossible. Then his voice was cut off as his command center was converted to plasma, along with everything else that had been the flagship of the mightiest military force in known space. Captain Gethvar assumed command of the remaining fleet from his heavy cruiser and immediately ordered all ships to activate their hyperspace drives. The retreat from Sol system was accomplished with a speed and efficiency that would have been impressive if it had not been motivated by absolute terror. 11 warships that had arrived expecting to intimidate primitives fled back toward Altrian space carrying news that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The footage of the flagship's destruction reached the galactic communication networks within hours, carried by the automated recording systems that every military vessel used to document their missions. Every species with access to interstellar communication watched as the most advanced warship in the Altrian fleet was obliterated by what appeared to be a simple kinetic projectile fired from the primitive human homeworld. The Emergency Council convened again, but the mood in the Great Hall was completely different from their previous meeting. The casual dismissal of human capabilities had been replaced by genuine fear and a growing respect for beings they had considered harmless primitives just days before. How is this possible? Councillor Vexhai asked the question that every representative was thinking but few dared to voice. The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Tae Hyun of the merchant vessel Seoul Sunrise had arrived at the council station carrying the first official diplomatic mission from Earth to the galactic government. He stood in the center of the Great Hall wearing the simple blue uniform of the United Earth Space Service and spoke with the quiet confidence of someone representing a species that had just demonstrated its ability to destroy the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. "Honored council members, you have asked how this is possible," Captain Tae Hyun said, while his words were carried by translation matrices to 47 different species, listening with complete attention. The answer is both simple and complex. We built a weapon that throws projectiles faster than your energy beams can travel. He paused to let the implications of that statement sink in before continuing. For thousands of years, your civilizations have developed technology based on the conversion of matter to energy. Your weapons heat solid objects until they become plasma, then direct that plasma toward targets using magnetic containment fields. This approach works well, but it has limitations that become apparent when you attempt to scale the weapons to higher power levels. Captain Taehyun activated a holographic projector that displayed technical specifications humanity had decided to share with the galaxy.